The discussion and polite discussion, it doesn't work. I have found that. You can go back and watch me on stage with T.I. and Killer Mike, and it doesn't work with the Black community. And I have a theory on this, and I think partially it's because we have this instance of father absence.
There it is. There it is. You knew it was coming. Hey, shout out to all of our subscribers and members here on the channel. I am Reese Waters, and this is Who Raised Y'all, where we go above and beyond to highlight those unique individuals doing their part to make our society worse.
Do you see how both former players looked at him like he was crazy at the exact same time? Yeah, it's because he doesn't know what he's talking about, so he has to cover for this by bringing up irrelevant things that have nothing to do with the subject to make it seem like he has more to say than he does.
I want to say this too. There's a narrative that goes around these days where if you're a brother and you're talking about brothers, oh, you just hating on brothers. You know, it's like black on black crime. Well, if a brother busts your ass and you happen to be a brother that got your ass busted, then how is it that?
I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with his commentary.
You know, the kinds of people you'll see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates.
Do you think that America shouldn't have gone into that Second World War?
Yeah, and that is a radical statement. People don't know how to deal with that because we've all been so brainwashed by the school system to believe that, well, look how great things are.
Now I would like to address those people here on the channel that have asked me, where's Candace? Is she banned? You're thinking because she had that ban from YouTube and the ban from Australia and the ban from New Zealand and the ban from the cookout, you were thinking that maybe she had been banned from this very channel. Well, I can assure you that she is not. I am free and willing and able to drag Candace Owens whenever she needs it. In fact, why don't we go check and see what she's up to right now?
Buckle up with your seatbelt for this one, because my next guest is considered a controversial figure, known for her provocative statements and conservative views. She's built a successful media brand, which includes a popular podcast and a new book called Make 'Em a Sandwich: Why Real Women Don't Need Fake Feminism. Despite facing criticism and controversy, she remains unapologetic and continues to push boundaries with her content and her opinions. Please welcome to the Stephen A. Smith Show, the one and only Candace Owens.
Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Ain't no way they came together perfectly just like that. Not Stephen A. Not the Stephen A. who threatened us to become a Republican. Yeah, if she don't start acting right, I'm a cheat for real. You know what? Hold up. I got another call. Yeah, it's my side piece. Oh no, Stephen A. Don't threaten us with a good time. But I'm sure your justification was sound.
Because here's what I want everybody to understand. And I want us to understand that we'll never get far until we learn to do this. No matter what our emotional state of mind is, no matter how turned off we might be over the things that people say and the manner in which they say it. Yes, it's true. Every truth ain't meant to be heard. Yes, it's true. Sometimes it is about the way you say something instead of what you're just saying. But far more often than not, the truth is supposed to usurp everything. And when that young lady speaks, don't even think about challenging her intelligence. Don't even think about challenging her ability to articulate her point of view. You better know what the hell you're talking about when you come at her. That's what I take away.
Okay, so apparently the only thing needed is to deviate from the norm. Like, you don't need no consistency. You don't need no sound justification. You just need to deviate from the norm. Well, I'll tell you this right now, Stephen A. I think Slava Medvedenko was the greatest Laker of all time. I will be awaiting my invitation to your platform forthwith. And don't get me started on Kwame Brown, Hall of Fame.
When they say that 85 to 90% of the people in the black community are going to vote democratically, that has always unnerved me. For a few reasons. Number one, I remember when Lyndon B Johnson was quoted as saying before 1964 civil rights legislation was placed into law, put this through, push this legislation through, and we'll have the Negroes vote for us for the next 200 years.
Now, that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up, Stephen A., because it would be nonsensical for us to hold an allegiance for this long a period of time for something that happened back in the 60s, when they said if we do this, we'll have them voting for us for the next 200 years. You tell me, though, has the opposing side not been actively working to deconstruct that very same legislation as we speak and called out their intention to do so prior to the election? I know, there's that part. Yeah, there's that part. There's what happened in the 60s, and there's what's happening right now. So if you don't like the justification that we are beholden to the Democrats for, our civil rights, how about the justification that we're going to lean Democrat because they're trying to take them away? Nah, I don't buy for it. Nah, I don't do Ford. No, we're not doing that. Ever since they took away DEI, I do not do Ford. Got myself a Tesla.
My heart goes out to you.
And I think about how divided society can be, how divided communities can be. You could be Hispanic, you could be Dominican, you could be Cuban, you could be Guatemalan, you could be Venezuelan, you could be Puerto Rican, you could be Mexican. It doesn't matter. You can't go to all of them and say, oh, excuse me, we got their vote. You can't take them for granted. You can't go to whites who are Catholics, whites who are Jewish, and say, oh, we got their vote. You can't go to the Asian community and say, oh, we got their vote. We got that on lock. But somehow, some way, you could say that about us.
Well, one reason you could maybe say that about us is that the Republicans have not been openly hostile to any of those other groups for decades. There is not a Reagan-esque figure in the Asian community or a Bush-esque figure in the Dominican or Puerto Rican community as we have consistently in our experiences with the GOP leading right to Donald Trump. Next! So this one I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open up a pizza spot right across the street from the other one. Yeah, right across the street. And our pizza not gonna be as good. And we're gonna charge much higher prices. We ain't gonna have no chairs. And we're going to verbally assault all the people that are in the establishment for the entirety of the time that they are there. But here's the thing. What we gonna sell is, are you gonna stay married to that old pizza place? Huh? Are you going? Cause they feel like they got your appetite.
So on one hand, we have a party, which is the Democratic Party, which at least some people in the black community believe has taken us for granted because they know they got our vote.
When the best argument you have is, well, aren't you tired of voting for them? It's not good. It's not good. Then they're going to hit us with, what do you have to lose? I can't wait to take what do you have to lose into the grocery store and see how long I can feed my kids with give us a chance.
And then you got folks on the side of the conservatives who saying there's no way in hell we gonna get the black vote, so why worry about them? And as a result, we end up being a disenfranchised community. That's the argument we were making before this past election.
I got it. So you let them off the hook for being hostile because they can take us for granted. They don't have to actually do anything tangible or be, I don't know, remotely decent to Black. They don't have to do none of that. They just get to say, well, we're not going to get them anyway and continue to be the way that they were.
Back 8 years ago, 9 years ago, Trump looked at America, Black America in particular, and said, what do you have to lose?
That was a kinder, gentler time, wasn't it? 8, 9 years ago. Yeah, I didn't need all these enhancements in the front of my hairline, and I could do lives at night without kids crying in the background with CPS on the way. Yeah, I remember that. And I also remember I had no idea how long the laundry list of what I had to lose would be. I had no idea 8, 9 years ago when he said, what do you have to lose? How much, in fact, I had to lose.
I've been one that was inclined to vote Democratic, at least for the presidency for the vast majority of my life. If it was anybody other than Trump, I think I would have voted conservative this time around. I'm sort of becoming even more enlightened. I'm going to use that word because I was so disgusted with the left and what I saw. My patience has run thin at times. And then I've listened to you over the years. And one of the things that I didn't like is like what you just described, what people would say about you. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. Is she wrong? What is she saying that you disagree? Yeah. How come you can't say you disagree with and make your points as to why, like she does, as opposed to just attacking her? Which brings me to my next question. What's it like being a Black conservative in America? Nobody better ask this question than you.
Honestly, it's a hell of a lot easier than it was when I first got into this back in 2015, because that was the first time they saw Trump, and people just could not see past how could this possibly happen. And I think the media had a stronger hold on people's minds then than it does now. Now we've seen the explosion of independent media. People are able to get their voices out outside of the New York Times and CNN and Fox News, and that's helped tremendously to defeat all of these media caricatures that are being created.
That's right, to defeat all of these media caricatures that are being created. Now she can go directly to her audience with content that gets her banned from whole countries. Yes, that's right.
I find it now, it's pioneering, to put it in a nice way. And I think it's the most rewarding thing ever when what I have found is that if you just stand for truth.
Now let's just stop us right there. The two things she mentioned, pioneering and rewarding. You don't say. Now, Stephen A had just made the point about him having issue with feeling like we are a monolith, so you get the whole pioneer thing, and about how rewarding it is to be that pioneer, to be that Black conservative. Now, if we would have said she likes to be different for different sake, and because it's extremely lucrative for people to have a Black face, so it enables them to continue to be as anti-Black as they choose to be, she would dispute that. But the first two things she mentions are pioneering and rewarding. That might be the first time that we agree.
What I have found is that if you just stand for truth, even in the beginning when it's really hard and people say terrible things about you, and I've been called everything you could possibly imagine, then there's that moment, even if it takes years, where they do come back and they say you were right, particularly about BLM. I mean, I was hitting the drum about the finances so early, and I'm going, I'm not saying that you don't have feelings about this thing, but I am telling you something else is going on. And this is going to harm the Black community in the end. This money is just going to be zapped out of communities, and communities are going to be destroyed. And then when that was proven right, it was so refreshing to hear people say, yeah, we kind of hated her for a really long time. We're kind of saying this for a really long time. And then, the fraud of Patrice Cullors and what they were doing with the money. And so my brain just works differently. I am different.
Now, that actually might be the second time that we happen to agree. Yes, your mind does certainly work differently, and you think different. What I'm trying to figure out is if you can say, oh, well, I called that out about Black Lives Matter and the money. I'm trying to find the content where you took issue with what was happening with the finances, yet still asserted that Black people were still endangered. I'm trying to figure out where you called out the police violence specifically against black people while at the same time calling out the finances. We don't have that content, do we? No. We don't have that content. You use that as an opportunity to go full white lives matter. In fact, we have whole content and photographic evidence of you asserting that white lives matter. So you used it as an opportunity to stand in opposition of the movement. That's what you did. We remember.
And I'm happy being different. I don't want to be the same. But I also do respect, I think I've learned in the process as well, is to just respect where people are at. You know, my sisters did not like where I was at when I started speaking in the way that I was speaking.
How many sisters do you have?
I have two sisters, and they're my best friends. So one is a year older, one's a year younger. So we're like a trio.
So they sandwich you. They sandwich you. They were against you and they sandwich you, huh?
Well, they just didn't really care.
Right.
You know, to me, that's Candace. I've always been different, you know,
Right.
and they didn't know what I was on or what I was thinking. And now this last election, they voted for Trump, which is crazy. Like that means they were fully on the left. And they just sort of saw it. And so it's just been cool to see that. And they now like my podcast. Before they didn't even listen to it. But we always had, I grew up obviously not obviously, but my family has a great sense of humor. And that was one of the worst things I hated about BLM is that I've always thought that Black people culturally, we're the funniest. We're the funniest. You always want to go listen to Chris Rock, Chris Tucker. And you saw that removal where everything was just taken so seriously. We're so easily offended. And I hated that. I thought the best parts of what the Black culture represented to me growing up was removed.
So the minstrels, is that what you're saying? So we're good to be minstrels, and this is not a comment about Chris Rock or Chris Tucker. I'm a comedian myself, but we can't actually take things seriously and stand up for our community, like unless we're being funny. And that's I'm trying to figure out. So the comedy was removed. Is that you were upset that there was no entertainment at the rallies? Is that? Were you looking for the official BLM comedian? I'm just. Oh, that is fascinating. That is crazy, because at the same time as they love to talk about how, Black people we don't take anything serious. Black people don't take anything serious. And now we come together and it's that the comedy was removed.
And for me, my sisters, they never cared. Like I'd be like, can you watch my cat? I have to go to a Trump thing. And my sister would be like, oh, are you going to another one of your Klansman rallies? Like, yeah, I'll watch your cat, you know? It was always a joke.
Yeah, and I get it. And I guess for me, because I think about it, and I remember when you showed up, I believe it was in Paris, you were with Kanye West, and you were wearing the White Lives Matter shirt and what have you. And I said, damn. And I was upset. I was actually upset at you. And here's why, Candace, because I looked at it and I said, no, don't give the ammunition. Don't give the ammunition. You can sit up there and you can talk to folks about your views, what you know, and educate folks without them being closed-minded because they saw something and visualized something and automatically deemed that you were against us as a people.
Right.
So, I mean, as you reflect on a moment like that and you talk about the Black community and politics, how do you feel? How do you gauge what's the right thing to do and what's not the right thing to do?
Stephen A., did you just admonish her, don't give them the ammunition because they're going to think you're against us? Huh? Is that what you just said? You just told the woman who capitalizes in virality whenever possible, does the loudest, most visible anti-Black thing whenever possible, ground that you're encroaching on, sir. You just told her, don't give them the ammunition? Actually, now I just answered my own question. You didn't want her to give them the ammunition because you wanted to stake out that ground for yourself. Oh, you not slick.
You know, for me, the discussion and polite discussion, it doesn't work. I have found that. You can go back and watch me on stage with T.I. and Killer Mike, and it doesn't work with the Black community. And I have a theory on this, and I think partially it's because we have this instance of father absence.
There it is. There it is. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. Yeah, I owe you. Yeah, I owe you $50. Because I felt like talking to an older black man. She wouldn't have stepped into the absentee father, but we knew. I should have known.
Because we have this instance of father absence, but there's a lot of attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to come politely, you're just going to get disrespected.
Now, so there's a lot of attitudes when you come to black people. There's a lot of attitudes, and these wouldn't happen to be the same magical Negroes who you felt like are the best at comedy, and that was taken away. Is that the same? These the same Negroes, the magical Negroes that were just so happy and fun and free. Now have the attitudes, and like 2 minutes later. What I can't figure out is how is it that every black person that Candace Owens has interacted with has had an attitude with her? That is crazy. That is like, why would black people respond to her that way consistently throughout her life? That is wild.
Yeah, it broke the internet, and it started a lot of conversations. But imagine if black people were just like, yeah, every time I saw a white person, right, I'm with you. But your white life matters. It's just, there's something about it I just don't like. It wasn't for me.
You brought up the use of bombastic words. You used that with George Floyd as well, who was murdered by a police officer in Minnesota. And obviously a lot of people in the black community had a real problem with you as it pertained to that. That brings me to this question. When you take these positions, does it enter your mind? I don't want to use the word vitriol because I think that's a bit too strong and that's unfair to you, and I don't want to do that. But when you consider the fact that so many people in the black community have voted Democratic since the civil rights legislation in 1964. We remember what Lyndon B Johnson said, that, you pass this legislation and we'll have the Negroes vote for us for the next 200 years. Remember that statement? I know, I remember that statement. I'm wondering, because of your knowledge of politics, your obvious knowledge of the issues, when you speak on these things and you take positions you take such positions, particularly if it's antithetical or the antithesis of what the black community will point to, do you think about it and do so on purpose because, dare I say, you're disgusted with us as a community for being hoodwinked by the Democratic Party in your eyes? Is that possible?
So that's a very good question. And disgusted would not be the right term for it. Frustrated, yes, and constantly trying to give people the facts so that they understand that Lyndon B Johnson was an avowed racist and he hated us, and yet we are doing everything that he wanted us to do. We are reacting emotionally and not rationally. We seem to be a stereotype of irrationality, actually. All we have to do is make them feel something and they won't react. And I want to be clear, it's not just Black Americans. The Me Too movement was another manifestation of that. That's why I'm doing this Harvey Weinstein series. But what really does upset me about the Black community is that the manner in which we defend criminals, you will not find this in any other community, okay? So white person gets shot, killed, unarmed. They're not coming out. White people are not coming out and burning down their own neighborhoods, right? They're going to be like,
Did you see the black community attack me for going off about OJ being celebrated? Did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, they've conditioned us to actually defend the worst in our communities. They just will let it go. You think Chinese people are going to run outside if they're like, well, listen, this guy was high on fentanyl. He got into a brush up with police officers and he died. Chinese people will be like, especially Asian moms are just dead serious. They'd be like, you idiot, good for you. So you're an embarrassment. Never come home. This is how Asian women are. They have a standard. You think Jewish people are coming outside and gonna, rally around and no.
Yes. What's hey.
I know how to skip now.
All right. I'll be down in a second.
Okay. He said he's gonna be there in a second to watch my skip down.
Okay.
That sounds good.
They have a standard. You think Jewish people are coming outside and gonna, rally around? No. They all know that they think of that as like a natural process. We don't want to associate with that. And we have the exact opposite mindset. And when I say the exact opposite, I mean also the reverse of that, being that the most educated and the most accomplished people in our community, in terms of their intellect, we reject. How can we ever get ahead, right? Oh, Condaleeza Rice. No, she's a traitor. She's Uncle Tom. Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice. He's a traitor. He's an Uncle Tom. But Dr. Ben Carson, a literal brain surgeon. Black people will call him stupid. It's crazy. So there's no way Black America can get ahead with that backwards mindset where you put George Floyd on a T-shirt and you denigrate and disrespect someone like Clarence Thomas. I'm just not with it.
Okay, let's move this backwards. How was Kamala Harris treated? How was Kamala Harris treated? In fact, how did you treat Kamala Harris? How's Jasmine Crockett being treated these days? How's she being treated? Obama? You want to go Obama? You want to go Obama? It's funny that you just off the top of my head, the most brilliant people, Ben Carson and Condaleeza Rice and Clarence Thomas. That's just off the top of your head. That's where you got. Yeah, that's where you got. Now, I also would like to point out, apparently, the line between you caring and not caring about what happens to an individual and what the ramifications might be for you is criminality. So apparently criminality is the line that you don't want to cross when it comes to defending someone or feeling like what happens to them could happen to you. Here's the fuzzy part of all that. You would have to trust that you're not being criminalized or you can't be criminalized unfairly. Is that a position that we could take? Because according to you, all they got to do is criminalize somebody and then they can do whatever they want, and far be it for the Black community to come out and defend them in any way. And that's beside we get to the point that not all of the people, and in fact, a quite great number of the people have stood up and asserted that their lives mattered and what befell them was unjust, weren't in fact criminals at all. They didn't get around to criminalizing them pre the street justice or whatever you want to call it. So that's a bit of a hole in the argument that you're making. But it's funny that Lyndon B Johnson is getting so much play in this interview, but it's the one quote. How about this one? At no point have I ever heard neither Stephen A. Smith or Candace Owens talk about, quote, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. It's funny because I would think that would be pretty appropriate for where we sit today. I would think all of the FAFO we are seeing from MAGA, all of a sudden coming to the realization that maybe Donald Trump and Elon Musk don't have their best interests at heart. I would think that would be pretty appropriate, especially given, as I just outlined, exactly how Kamala Harris was treated all throughout the campaign. But we're not going to mention that at all. No, we're going to talk about how they treated Ben Carson.
Oh, Condaleeza Rice. No, she's a traitor. She's Uncle Tom. Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice. He's a traitor. He's an Uncle Tom. But Dr. Ben Carson, a literal brain surgeon. Black people will call him stupid. It's crazy.
And that, in fact, has become par for the course from what I've seen from Stephen A.
Now you see why Stephen A. Smith was in the polls as a presidential candidate? See what I'm talking about? You see that idiocy right there? You talk about something, people being tone deaf. Why the hell would 22 Democratic senators be literally echoing the same thing and think that would resonate with the American people? All it shows is that the same fabric of our democracy is unchanging in the eyes of some of these officials, and as a result, the constituency they represent, which is why Donald Trump is in office. What, do I have to come up to Capitol Hill and give you lessons?
Well, Stephen A., I will help you with the tone, since as they are in fact tone deaf. I just want to give you an idea of how your moves have been received.
Stephen A. Smith had Candace Owens on. He's clearly red-pilled. Jason Whitlock is praising Andrew Tate. He's clearly red-pilled.
That's right. He put you with Jason Whitlock. Congratulations, sir. Yeah, congratulations, sir. Yeah, a good glad handing of Candace Owens will get you a back slap from Nick Fuentes and being grouped with Jason Whitlock. And it couldn't have happened to a better man than Stephen A. Smith. But you know, look on the bright side. This is going to do huge numbers, especially considering all of the traffic she's going to garner.
Come get me, arrest me, perp walk me, put me on the news, tell everyone I'm a human trafficker. You think I'm not versed? You think I'm not ready? I'm a Navy SEAL in this shit. Fucking come get me, raid my house, take my stuff. You think I sleep with a full phone full of evidence? You think I don't wipe my phone every night? You think I'm dumb? Come get me, arrest me.
So congratulations to you, Stephen A. Smith. And by the way, I'm pretty sure Andrew Tate is available if you need a guest for next week. Thank you guys so much for watching the video and supporting the channel. And I want to send a very special shout out to everybody who attended our 2,000 member live celebration last weekend.
Yeah, Mobutu quit and he in the pool right now. Yeah, this gonna be crazy when they find out what happened. Come down. Yeah, Mobutu, he in the pool right now.
It was so much fun. I think we want to make it regular. Yeah, I think we're going to make it a regular thing. So we're going to usher in a new regular members live. I put a poll up on the community tabs. You guys let me know when would be the best time to bring in a new live onto the weekly schedule. And if you would like to join, there is a link to membership in the description box of all of the videos. Now that'll be in addition to the regular Tuesday lives, which we move from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. So be on the lookout for those as well. I'll be bringing in guests. And speaking of which, if you would like to get a little personal, we get a little bit personal on my other channel, you might want to check out Way of Waters. That's where I tell a lot of stories and talk about my journey to mindfulness and with meditation. And I bring in lots of different people to help usher me into a new phase of peace. So I'll be posting there regularly at Way of Waters. And I'll be remiss if I didn't mention my website, reesewaters.com. That's where you can drop me a kudos or send me a suggestion on guests or content. You could purchase merch. You could also sign up for my newsletter. And you can also do all those things by emailing admin@reesewaters.com. But once again, I am so happy that you are here along with me on this journey. There's a lot more to come.